Hi, this is Nathan Eckel. I'm the writer of The Rose of Antahs. The Rose of Antahs is a fantasy novel set in a desert world that was influenced by ancient Persia and India. It's the story of a spoiled, naive, and headstrong princess who must learn what it means to rule when she finds herself suddenly caught in the middle of a sandstorm of intrigue, deceit, and betrayal. I began this novel when I was taking a screenwriting class and originally hoped to write a screenplay for it. But the length and scope of the story was something I believed to be better served by a novel. There were many influences that led to my creation of the story and the world it takes place in. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, I was captivated by Star Wars, as nearly everyone my age was. As a kid, I was fascinated with the mystique of the Jedi, but also the depth of the world of Star Wars. There were so many characters from so many different places, and each had their attributes and liabilities. As a kid, I was an Atari junkie. I loved video games because they allowed me to escape to a world that seemed so much better than the one I lived in. I could be a knight or a space warrior or even an alien lost on Earth. I think this is part of why I like fantasy and science fiction. They take me away to a different world. I was also influenced by the novel Watership Down, which is so beautifully written. The story provides such a deep and rich world. The rabbits are more than just woodland animals seeking a new home. They have a religion and a language all their own. This prompted me to consider what the inhabitants of Antahs, the world I was creating, would believe in. What would their faith be based on? A big contributor to some of the ideas I had came from a series of video games from the late 1990s called Thief. These games had an incredible storyline, and the action of the main character probably influenced my writing of the character Azka more than anything else. The movie Elizabeth got me thinking about what it would be like for a woman to try and rule in a land that refused to accept her simply because she was not a man. What struggles might she have? How could she win the people over? Like so many other people, I love the Harry Potter books. While the world has incredible depth and detail, what I admire about J.K. Rowling's style is her efficiency of writing. She doesn't spend more than a few lines describing the magic of her world, and yet in that short space she creates an incredibly vivid picture and allows the reader's imagination to visualize the happenings so well. So on to the book, The Rose of Antahs. I knew I wanted the story to be about a desert kingdom. I've read many fantasy novels that are centered around a medieval Europe-type world with knights, kings and queens, and sorcerers. They are a lot of fun to read, but I didn't think I would be able to bring anything new to that world, so I decided to go to the desert. I also loved the title of Sultan. To me, it sounds so powerful and exotic that I wanted to write a story that would be in that kind of a world. So Antahs is a desert kingdom, or sultanate, since it is ruled by the sultan. Antahs is deep in the desert, and therefore isolated from the rest of the world. As a result, the sultanate must be self-sufficient, providing its own food, water, shelter, and goods. So I had to think about how crops could be grown. What would the buildings be made of? Where would they get water? And how did the people get so far into the desert in the first place? I put the farms underground with large glass ceilings that could be opened or closed to allow more or less sunlight in. The palaces of the Sultanate were carved from a small ring of mountains over the course of several centuries, and Antahs is located over an underground lake which is refilled every year by the rainy season. For the religion, I thought about how central the sun would be to a desert world. So the sun is their god, Kaza, and the moon is his wife and their goddess, Lumala. Kaza is a strict father, and Lumala is a gentle, loving mother. The temple fosters the faith of the inhabitants, but unlike Western civilization, there is no battle between religion and science. Instead, the Sun Temple has engineers and scientists who study the world and create better machinery to help the citizens live better lives. In the lower levels of the Sun Temple, far beneath the surface, live the fire mages. These men and boys all have the power to conjure and manipulate fire, but their power comes with a cost. They must avoid heat, a difficult task in a desert kingdom, and strong emotions. Either can send their power spiraling out of control until it consumes and destroys them. There are two classes of citizens in Antahs: the nobility, which consists of the beys and their families, along with the sultan and his family, and the underlings, which are the workers and laborers of Antahs. The nobles live in the palaces on the surface, while the underlings live in the underworld, a series of tunnels with homes, shops, and other essentials carved into the stone beneath the palaces. The main character is Princess Malahadi. When we first meet her, she is somewhat spoiled and self-centered. She is in conflict with her father, the Sultan, because he insists that she marry. She resists the idea because she wants to rule Antahs herself, not give the throne to a husband. But when the Sultan becomes gravely ill, and Malahadi finds herself as the Sultana of Antahs, she realizes that ruling is much harder than she thought. The beys question her right to rule and begin to vie to take the throne for themselves. One particular bey, named Jastan, works in secret to harangue the princess however he can. Jastan has a rumak, a ninja of sorts, named Azka. He is a counselor, spy, thug, guard, and assassin all in one. He is supremely loyal to Jastan and will follow all commands without question. The Sultan had a rumak, but dismissed him for reasons unknown to Malahadi. This leaves the princess vulnerable. Even though she has the tar, her loyal guards are no match for a rumak. In addition to her problems with the nobility, there is unrest in the underworld. Some of the underlings have begun a rebellion which she must deal with. So Princess Malahadi battles to keep the throne until she realizes that the only way for her to persevere is through the ceremony of the rose, an ancient custom in which the Sultanate's sovereign is chosen by Qaza through a blooming rose in the oases surrounding the Sultanate. Against all odds, Malahadi can become the divinely chosen ruler, but can she survive long enough to win the rose and save Antahs? Currently, I'm working on a novel that I hope to make part of a series called The Adventures of Pete Mesquite. This is a light-hearted science fiction story where every form of entertainment that is not educational is banned. The hero, Pete Mesquite, illegally transports people to Deller 3, the last planet where contraband like video games, music, movies, and TV still exist. Unfortunately for Pete, the superintendent of the galaxy has made illegal transporting a capital crime. So in his aging ship, the Martyr, he must avoid the naval fleet as well as several other villains hunting him. Along the way, he makes an odd assortment of allies as he battles to stay alive and hopes to overturn the superintendent's decree. Thanks for watching, and I hope you give The Rose of Antahs a try.